Welcome to CEC Online Lectures. I am Dr. Varunendra Singh Rawat, Assistant Professor, Hindu College, University of Delhi. In this time of Corona pandemic, when everything has come to a standstill and regular classes are not being held, it is our duty to ensure that our learning process does not stop. To ensure this, CEC has arranged for online lectures to be broadcasted, though they are recorded at home. These lectures will not only deal with your syllabus, but they will also help you to enhance your learning process. And toward this end, I'll be dealing with specific topic of evolutionary biology today. This particular topic basically deals with behavioral evolutionary biology, and it goes by the name of kin selection. As you must be aware that kin means our relatives or the ones who are near to us. So what exactly does kin selection mean? In which particular aspect of evolutionary biology will we keep kin selection? We have heard of natural selection and how it shapes the evolution of a species. So what does kin selection do for an organism or for the species wherein this particular behavior occurs? So today I'll be dealing with kin selection, and I'll be broadly dealing with the concept of fitness. What exactly fitness means as we talk in terms of evolutionary biology. What role does altruism plays in the real world, in the wild world, not in the human world, but what exactly is the role played by altruism, and how does kin selection shape the evolution of a species, and how it continues generation after generation. So the learning objective for this particular topic you must be able to tell about what exactly is the mechanism of kin selection, how does kin selection operate, when does kin selection occur, what are the specific times or specific criteria which should be fulfilled for kin selection to take place, and also you must know after this lecture you must come to know how to calculate coefficient of relatedness. But before I delve into what exactly kin selection means, how altruism is related to kin selection, I would like to delve a bit into natural selection. Though all of you are familiar with the term natural selection and what it entails, I would like to build a base so that we can move on to kin selection and it is explained in a better contextual way. So when we talk of natural selection, we know it is the survival of the fittest. What is the fittest in this particular context? Is it the organism which is the fastest, which is the most strong, or which is able to procure most of the food? What exactly the fitness term entails? Does it include only physical fitness, or in terms of natural selection we are talking of something else? Whenever the term fit comes to our notice in our world, in the human world, we always think of an individual who is very physically fit, who can run fast, or who is very strong. And basically, when we talk of fitness, we are always thinking of physical fitness. But when we talk of fitness in the term of natural selection, we basically are talking something else. It is not the physical fitness, though physical fitness can be a part of it. So this particular term was first coined by Herbert Spencer. The term survival of fitness was first coined by Herbert Spencer after he read the work of Charles Darwin, Origin of Species. Now in the context of evolutionary biology, fitness means something related to reproduction. So fitness in terms of evolutionary biology is reproductive success. That means how much success does an organism have in reproducing, not only the act of sexual intercourse, but the production of the offsprings which have a part of their genome, with the organism which have a part of the genome from that particular organism. So basically, when we talk of fitness in evolutionary biology, it not only tells of the reproductive success, that is production of the progeny, but it also tells that that organism is much more adapted to that particular environment. Because only when an organism is adapted to an environment, it can divert energy for reproductive efforts. And when that energy is diverted towards reproductive efforts, young ones will be produced whose genetic component will be a part from one of the parent and another part of course from the other parent. So whenever we are talking of fitness, we should remember in in the evolutionary biology, fitness basically is dealing with the reproductive success. So fitness could be absolute, wherein we are measuring the ratio of a given genotype before and after selection. So when we are talking of absolute fitness, we are basically counting the number of individuals with a given genotype in a given population, and when then selection force acts on that particular population. That selection force could be any natural criteria, a natural environmental criteria like temperature, moisture, or anything dealing with the natural world. And when that selection pressure acts on the natural population, after that selection pressure, how many individuals of the given genotype are produced, that will be counted. So the ratio of the individuals belonging to a given genotype before the selection pressure acts on the population and after the selection pressure acts on the population will be termed as absolute fitness. Whereas when we talk of relative fitness, as the term suggests relative, we are basically comparing different genotypes. So this relative fitness basically is a differential type of fitness where we are measuring differential reproductive success. So herein we are taking different genotypes in a population and we are assessing how fit those particular genotypes are. That is, how many offsprings or how many progenies are produced by each type of genotype. The fitter the genotype, the more adapted the genotype to survive in a given environment, more progenies will be produced by that particular genotype in that particular environment. So that is termed as relative fitness. Needless to say, if a particular genotype is not suited or maladapted to an environment, it will not be able to divert the energy for reproductive effort and therefore will not be able to produce a large number of progeny. So in the course of time, that particular genotype will not be selected and might be that combination does not occur later on in the successive course of life history of that particular species. Now the differential reproductive success, that is differential rate of reproductive success of different genotype, does not always depend on the physical prowess or the physical fitness or physical attributes of an organism. Might be there are organisms which are very well built, which are very fast, which are territorial, which are able to procure most of these sites, nesting sites, which are able to procure most food. And might be also they are able to procure mate, but might be they are not fertile, or they are harboring a gene combination which might be detrimental to their progeny. Then in that case, those organisms are not fit. Whereas there might be organisms which might appear to be smaller, meek, which might not be so bold, but they might adapt certain reproductive strategies like sneaking. They might sneak into the herd where the females are present and they might mate with them very fast, and then they will sire or they will produce offsprings, and these will be related to them. So these organisms will be much more fit as compared to the one which are physically very fit but are infertile or are not able to produce progeny. So physical fitness does not always means that organism is evolutionarily fit, but in most of the cases it does mean that organism is fit. Okay, but it's not a blanket thing that if an organism is physically fit, it is bound to be evolutionarily fit also. So organisms which will be better suited to their environment will be reproducing more, passing on their genes combination, and they will be termed as more successful or more fit as compared to their counterparts. Now, when we say that natural selection is an evolutionary force which tends to select the organisms which are best fit to a particular environment, and also those organisms which will produce the maximum number of offsprings. These offspring should not be infertile and they should not be inviable. That means only those offsprings which are viable are considered, and only those offsprings which are fertile will be considered. So natural selection ensures that only those organisms which are adapted to a particular environment and those which produce fertile offspring are selected, and only those gene combinations pass on from generation after generation. So in that context, we come against certain cases which tend to be anomalous, which do not follow the principle of natural selection. So how do you explain these anomalies in the natural world, where certain individuals, they forego their chance of reproduction and assist other organisms of the same species which are related to them? They assist them in their attempts of reproduction so that they can produce young ones, or they might also take part in, they might help them in rearing of the young ones. That means they are assisting some other organism for producing more offspring, or for rearing the offspring which are produced by them. So where does that fit in the whole scenario of natural selection? Because natural selection, as we know, is basically favoring those individuals who produce more offspring of their own. So why and how does this anomaly came into existence, and how is it continuing over generation after generation? So let's take an example of social insects. Social insects, you know, are bees, ants, which live in a colony. And this particular structure of colony, it's basically a hierarchical colonial structure, where there is one individual who is supposed to be the ruler, the queen, and all others are workers. Some are soldiers, some are drones. So let's take an example of honeybee, which is a very important social insect which we all know about. We all have seen hives of honeybees sometime or other, and we all know what the colony structure of honeybee consists of. So there is a queen bee, which is basically tasked with production of young ones, and there are a number of worker bees which are tasked with raising the young ones and upkeep of the hive. And there are certain drones, small number of drones, which are basically the males which take part in fertilization of the queen when it goes swarming. So how does this happen that the worker bees, they have left their own chances of reproduction, and they have devoted themselves for the upkeep of the hive, for raising the young ones produced by the queen bee? And how did this particular behavior evolve? How did these type of genes came into selection, and how did they get selected? And they're continuing for millions and millions of years. So what exactly forces, or what exactly drives these worker bees for such particular behavior? As far as we know, queen bee does not force these worker bees to work for the upkeep of hive or for raising the young. So this will be the aim of this particular lecture, to explain such behavior wherein a particular individual sacrifices its own reproductive success to ensure that its relative reproduce and produce young ones. So the question is, why do they do so, and how do evolutionary principles explain this anomaly in behavior of these individuals? Not only these individuals, this is an extreme example of kin selection or altruism, but there are other examples from different phylums of vertebrates and invertebrates which show social behavior. Might be not to this extreme, but they also come under kin selection. So this behavioral pattern, how can it be explained? Before proceeding further, I would like to put forward a statement which was given by an eminent scientist, J.B.S. Haldane. Now, J.B.S. Haldane gave a statement which is very profound, which says, "I would lay down my life for 2 brothers or 8 cousins." That means, in natural selection terms, it means that this person is ready to do away with his chances of reproductive efforts to ensure if there are 2 brothers whom he can allow to reproduce, or 8 cousins whom he can allow to reproduce. So why does he say so? Why not 8 brothers and 2 cousins? What is the relation here? Why does he only mention 2 brothers? Why doesn't he mention 8 brothers or 2 cousins? So if you even if you're a lay person, you can correlate that the real brothers you have, they are much more related to you as compared to the cousins. Therefore, if a person is ready to forego his reproductive effort, that particular foregoing of effort can be completed by lesser number of brothers, because they are much more related. Whereas more cousins would be required to complete that particular aspect of reproductive effort. So how that is so, I'll be explaining to you, and you should also be able to work out the relatedness, how relatedness affects the kin selection behavior or altruism behavior. Now coming to altruism, what exactly altruism means? When we talk of the honeybee, the behavior which is being shown by the worker bees is altruism, and it is common to social insects, where a number of insects work selflessly to ensure that colony is safe and the young ones are reared. Now this particular aspect of altruism is different from altruism which we talk in context of humans, because when we talk of an altruistic human, usually we talk of a philanthropist or a millionaire or billionaire or any person who helps the needy ones, in terms of money or in terms of effort or kind or anything else. So basically that person is helping other individuals who are not closely related to him or her. So that is basically behavioral altruism, and it does not have anything to do with the natural selection altruism, which is seen in the case of insects or social insects and number of other organisms. So what exactly an altruistic individual is doing? It is actually sacrificing its chances, and that is the real type of altruism. So the existence of this type of behavior has been observed I must say, by the time of Darwin. It was observed by Darwin himself, and when he observed this behavior, he had a difficulty in explaining this particular type of behavior. Why so? Because his concept of natural selection was the survival of the fittest, wherein the fitness basically talks of reproductive success. So when Darwin saw that there are certain individuals who are ready to sacrifice their reproductive success, there was something amiss here. Even though it was difficult for Darwin to explain this, he suggested that selection might be favoring certain traits which, though are decreasing the fitness of a particular individual, they are increasing the fitness or reproductive success of a close relative. So he did mention that he was able to explain this particular behavior in this context. So he was not able to pinpoint what exactly is happening here, but he did came to a certain sort of conclusion here. Whenever we are talking of social interaction, we are talking of individuals. So if two individuals are interacting, say one individual will be termed as an actor, another will be termed as recipient. The actor will be the one who will be performing an action, and recipient will be the one who will be deriving benefit or harm out of the action being performed by the actor. So the action being performed by the actor will not only affect the recipient but also the actor himself, and the cost and benefit will be measured in different terms, but in terms of natural selection, the cost and benefits will be measured in the terms of fitness. That means in the terms of offspring being produced and in the terms of offspring which are surviving. When we talk of actors and recipients, so there can be a number of interaction between them. So one could be where an actor benefits and also the recipient benefits. That type of action is basically a cooperative behavior. When an actor benefits and recipient is harmed, that is termed as selfish behavior. When a recipient is harmed and an actor is also harmed, that is termed as spiteful behavior. But when an actor is harmed but recipient benefits, that is termed as an altruistic behavior. So this altruistic behavior is the focus of our discussion today, and I'll be explaining that further on. Now, the first person who talked broadly or who focused entirely on this aspect of the natural selection was W.D. Hamilton, who gave the theory of or who proposed the theory of kin selection and concept of inclusive fitness in the year 1964. Now, he suggested that selection might favor traits which decrease the fitness of an individual if they increased the reproductive success of its close relative. The fitness of individual can be measured in terms of direct fitness or indirect fitness. When we talk of direct fitness, it's basically talking of the number of offspring being produced by an individual himself or herself, whereas indirect fitness is basically the number of offspring being produced by the relatives of that particular organism. The relatives, of course, will be sharing some genes with the organism. That's why it is termed as indirect fitness, and it is relative it's basically a component of total fitness. So indirect fitness and direct fitness, when clubbed together, that is termed as inclusive fitness. So inclusive fitness will be comprising of direct fitness, that is the number of young ones being produced by the individual himself or herself, and indirect fitness will be the number of offspring being produced by the relatives of that particular individual. And those relatives could be sisters, brothers, even uncles, aunts, grandparents, and so on. Basically, it means that only the individuals who share similar type of genes are relative, and these individuals also will be passing on similar genes to the next generation. That's why it is a component of indirect fitness. How closely related should organisms be for altruistic behavior to take place? That means, when should an organism ensure that its relatives are able to reproduce by foregoing its own chances? So according to Hamilton, the allele favoring altruism could increase in frequency in a population if it satisfies the following condition. That is, if the benefits of this particular action and the relatedness of the individual is more than the cost incurred by the actor, then this particular behavior should be favored. So if B is benefit and R is relatedness, then benefit into relatedness should be greater than C, which is cost. The BR minus C should be greater than 0. That is, BR should be greater than C. And R therefore should be greater than C by B, where B is the benefit to the recipient and C is the cost to altruist. And R is relatedness, which is probability that homologous alleles in two individuals are identicals by descent. The proportion of allele in two individuals which are identical by descent, if they are quite high, then the individuals are closely related. If they are less, then the individuals are far more related. They are farther in the genealogical tree. So the R is for full siblings is 0.5. How do we come to that particular conclusion? Let's look into this particular slide. If there are two individuals that are parents, if we take a particular locus, that particular locus will have two alleles in the father and two alleles in the mother. Let's name them in a different fashion: A1, A2, A3 and A4. Now in male, suppose in male the combination is A1, A2, and in female particular alleles will produce individuals which are either A1, A3, A2, A3, A1, A4 or A2, A4. So different individuals which are born to this particular couple, they can either have similar combination like A1, A3 and A1, A3 in both the siblings, then the similarity will be 1. But if only one of the gene is similar, like A1, A3 and A2, A3, then that means only A3 is similar. In that case, similarity is only 0.5. So if we sum up all the possible combination and divide that by the number of maximum possible similarity, in this case it is 16. If we sum up all these values, that is 1 plus 0.5 plus 0.5 plus 0 and all that, and divide that by 16, we come to a value 0.5. So the average proportion of alleles which are identical by descent for a pair of full siblings is 0.5. We can calculate for different relations like this. For half siblings it is 1 by 2 into 1 by 2, that is 1 by 4. For full siblings it is 1 by 2 into 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 into 1 by 2, because both are sharing mother and father, that becomes 1 by 2. For cousins it is 1 by 2 into 1 by 2, because the parent and his or her brother and sister will also be sharing 1 by 2 relationship. So for two first cousins it will be 1 by 2 into 1 by 2 into 1 by 2, that is 1 by 8. So we can calculate, your task is to calculate relationship between different individuals. What will be the relatedness between identical twins? Please calculate that. What will be the relatedness between fraternal twins? What will be the relatedness or relationship coefficient between you and the daughter of your mother's first cousin? That means you and daughter of your mother's first cousin. And what will be your relationship with your third cousin? Please calculate the relationship coefficient for all these tasks, for all these individuals. So there are basically, how does kin selection operate? There are specific steps for kin selection. The first one is kin discrimination or kin recognition, where the individual should be able to recognize who is his or her kin. That is very important, because if you do not know who is the relative, how will you pass or how will you show a certain beneficial behavior to him or her? So it could be based on the phenotypic clue or the proximity clue and so on. Second is population viscosity. Most of the individuals who are closely related in the wild world, they live in close proximity with each other. There is low dispersal rate, and that's why they are able to recognize that they are related with each other. And third could be green-beard effect. Green-beard effect was basically a term given by Richard Dawkins in his book Selfish Gene, based on the theory of Hamilton of kin selection. So basically, if there is a gene which gives a specific, which produces a specific phenotype, and this phenotype will be identifiable by individuals who also have same phenotype, like say green beard. So one individual is producing a beard which is green in color. He or she can recognize another individual who is also producing a beard which is green in color. Then that particular individual can show altruistic behavior towards that individual who is also sharing similar genes. So in this case, though the individual is not closely related, because they share similar genes, altruistic behavior might be seen in these individuals also. One example of green-beard effect has been seen in red imported fire ant, Solenopsis invicta, wherein there are multiple queens in the colony, and only those queens are able to survive which are allowed to do so by specific ants. These worker ants, they are able to distinguish between queen based on their genotype, because different queens having different genotype, they produce different odor, and workers can recognize these odor. The maximum number of workers, if they are belonging to a specific genotype, they will only favor the queen which belong to their own genotype, and they will let only her live, and other queens will be killed by those workers. So this is the mechanism by which kin selection occurs. This is how individuals show altruistic behavior based on their relatedness. So you should be able to calculate the coefficient of relatedness between different individuals, how far they are removed from each other. Based on that, you can calculate coefficient of relatedness, and then you can say whether it is worthwhile for an individual to sacrifice his or her chances of reproduction for an individual. Say whether an individual should sacrifice his chances for 8th cousin or 4th cousin or 5th cousin. So you can tell on that particular basis. So this is all about kin selection and how it operates in the natural world. Thank you.